So I remember you saying in the last podcast how at the time, if you came to London, my granddad spoke about this a lot of times as well. When you came to London in the 60s and 70s, you used to see signs saying no blacks, no dogs, no Irish.
Oh gosh, yeah.
And you said that you felt like kind of the mixed race, your generation of mixed race kids were the dogs of the blacks and the
definitely.
Irish. If you could kind of speak to that and sort of what general society's reaction was to, because I'm sure at that time being mixed race was rare, really. I might be wrong, but
I think
what was society's reaction to you?
I mean, I think the sense of it I got was very much about recognising that there was one thing to be black, but if you were a mixed race child, and in those days most likely from a white mother, the dark forces of racism were saying you were worse than black people because a white woman had been violated in order for you to be born.
I see.
So it was a kind of whole...
Was that more from the white side then, I guess?
Oh yeah, the black side wasn't that. The black side was not really about that. I think because the thing that was interesting about the black side is that it was more of I certainly, if this sounds so stupid to say this in 2018, but maybe it's not. But I think the thing about the black side was when you were, particularly when you started to be with meet black families. I can well remember meeting a girlfriend and her parents saying to her mother openly saying, "Oh my gosh, what your children are going to have nice hair."
Yeah,
this kind of it's like what?
As well.
Why are people talking about it in 2018? What nonsense is that? But this kid's got good prospects because he's the hair's going to be soft and all this sort of stupidness, and it feels to me such an arc back to our slave mentality and all that. But anyway, that aside, I think that it was that notion that a white woman, a white person, had been intimate with a black man that was kind of felt as though that when we were children, that the white racist type white people just couldn't get on with that. Yeah. I remember going to see Tottenham play. As you know, I'm a mad Spurs fan. I used to go all the time. I had some friends at the time who were playing for Spurs in that particular era I'm thinking of. And one of them was a guy called Chris Hughton. Chris is now the manager of Brighton. And he was played fullback for Tottenham. Yeah. And I remember being in the Chelsea, not in Chelsea end, but in this kind of mixed stand. And this guy started to rip into Chris Hughton, and he started on our black players, and he was just screaming at the black Tottenham players, but he saved his absolute hatred for Chris Hughton, and it was like, he's even effing worse because he's an effing this, that and the other, and I thought, wow, damn, people, I mean, not that you can call that thinking, it doesn't quite reach that threshold, but people can actually, that's a thing? Yeah. Crikey, and that really struck me, I was kind of really shocked about that. And I think what I was insulated from as a child is because, our most mixed race children of my generation would be Irish Caribbean or Irish African, specifically Irish Nigerian or Irish Caribbean. So that would be the typical mix in the 60s when I was born. And typically the white people that we were with were Irish. And they were dogs just like we were, right? So there was that's right. And funnily, I was at a meeting a couple of years ago, and funnily enough, the MP, I was at the same meeting with the MP for Tottenham, who's David Lammy, and David said something really interesting. We were just chatting offline, and he said what a really interesting trend that they were seeing was the amount of Eastern European women that are having black children.
Oh, I didn't even know that.
It's a major thing, and funnily enough, Haley and I were just at this Chinese takeaway getting some food. Not long after I was talking to David, and this woman came in, and she's a white lady, and she came in with a mixed race child, kind of darker skin than I am, and she just started talking in Polish, and I was thinking, oh, who's she talking to? Yeah. And the kids started talking back in Polish, and I'm thinking, what the hell's happening? Yeah. And it was what really struck me as interesting was I thought that is fascinating because sort of 60 years on from when I was born, or 58 years in my case, but that so many generations on. Now we've got this new wave of what hit me, Damini, we've got this new wave of immigrants that are coming from Eastern Europe, and the people they feel confederate with, the people they feel connected to, are still the Caribbean and the African, or particularly the Caribbean, and that made me wonder to the extent. And what I thought was, and I don't know whether this is a right thought or a bad thought, but it just was my thought, was it was interesting how it felt like that Caribbean community hadn't actually moved on any.
Yeah, I was about to say.
You see what I mean? It was very strange. It was really strange.
It was like the black community, the Irish community were social outcasts, and growing up in the UK now, I know certainly when I was really young, there was still a bit of animosity towards Irish people. The IRA was still.
And that was crazy.
IRA
yeah,
was
that was
active.
crazy.
There was still the civil war happening. But as times progress now, Irish people are just white people as far as I'm concerned. I think the way society sees it, and they're not so much of an outcast in society's terms. But now, they're more integrated. But as you were saying, kind of Eastern Europeans, I think we certainly saw this in the outcome of or after the Brexit vote. There was a lot of animosity towards Eastern European.
Absolutely.
People. And again, I think it kind of, as you were saying, highlights almost how the black community hasn't moved out from that social outcast.
It's still exactly. Yeah. I think it's still in the lowest socioeconomic communities.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think it's still suffering from the big social justice issues. And therefore the new immigrant community that are coming in are gravitating to those same kind of sinkhole communities, and therefore unsurprisingly their connections are with people in that community. And I just thought that was kind of interesting. I thought, wow, 50, 60 years on, it feels like a bit of a scratch record, and I thought that was interesting. And ever since that, when you get that consciousness about something, I keep now noticing all these mixed race children that are Eastern European, and it just thinks.
Yeah,
that's crazy. That's crazy.